Welcome back to the channel. I hope you enjoy. I remember listening to my mom and dad argue the night they found out she was pregnant. Despite their hushed tones behind the closed bedroom door, I could hear it all. He called her a filthy whore and accused her of cheating on him with the neighbor. You see, I am supposed to be an only child. At age 15, I didn't really expect to have a younger sibling. Neither did my parents. My dad had a vasectomy 2 years ago. My mom kept trying to tell him that vasectomies aren't foolproof, but he wasn't having it. I googled it. Apparently, only like 1% of them fail. I have my doubts too, but I just don't want to believe it. But the signs are there. It does seem suspicious. When I'm at school and my dad is working, our neighbor Luke always comes over to help with the yard work. My dad never has the time with his long hours, so it made sense at first. But sometimes I'd come home and Luke would still be there, chatting with my mom at the kitchen table. She's even gone out of her way to bring him cookies every Sunday. My dad is going insane. Mom's already at 38 weeks and she has been drinking every night. When she goes to bed after another night of fighting, he comes into my room to drunkenly confide in me. If that goddamn baby comes out with blonde hair and blue eyes, I'm going across the street and killing that motherfucker. He had a point. My dad's strong Irish features have been passed down for generations. He tells me he won't be able to stand the humiliation when our family finds out. All I can do is say it'll be okay. I tell him that Mom loves him, that she would never betray him, and I don't know what else to do. But they still fight every night. The screams get louder and louder. I put in my headphones and turned my phone up high. He came home from the bar late again, totally wasted. I just knew it was going to be a bad night. Even with the music blasting, I could hear the scathing insults and accusations. But then a shriek, a piercing scream came from Mom. I sprinted up the stairs and busted through the door. There was so much blood. It pooled around my mom, pouring from the huge gash running across her stomach. She stared blankly at the ceiling, not moving. My dad was frozen, a look of pure shock on his face. He sat holding the bloodied knife with one hand and cradling the blue-faced baby in the other. I needed to know, he choked out. All I could do was stare as my little brother gasped for air. Dad finally dropped the knife and placed a hand on his tiny head, gently stroking his hair. His curly little locks were a vibrant red, just like Dad's. Back in my early 20s, I was unstoppable, off my hinges with the drinking and drugs. It was so bad that I would end up at my mother's nearly dead and trying to sober up, and she was always there to take care of me. She was my angel, and no matter how bad things have gotten, how bad I'd treat her with all the bad things I'd say, stealing from her, she would always be there to love me no matter what. One night after a week of a binging and going down those gutters, I somehow managed to crawl my way back to her front porch. I don't remember how much, but I had sober flashes of her helping me into the house, falling down and doing her best to drag me down the hallways to my old bedroom, knocking over picture frames off the wall and stripping down the nightstand. She laid me down on the bed and wrapped me into a blanket, feeding me water to help me drown out the drugs in my system. At some point, I remember yelling at her, calling her every bad word I knew in my vocabulary, knocking the cup out of the hand only for her to rush around and grab another cup for me to drink. Soon after that first night, I remember waking up a few times to peel my eyes open to her sitting by my bedside holding my hand as I'd sweat heavily, shaking out of control and black out again. Waking up to her smiling at me, dabbing a damp hand towel on my forehead. She was the sweetest woman who would do anything for me, and I was just too blind to see that she just wanted the best for me. Day 2 came around and I was still in a pretty bad shape. trying my best to wake up and sit on the bed only for her to lay me back down and tell me to rest as she kept giving me water with bits of crackers. Falling back asleep, I'd have the worst nightmares where I was in this darkness and having multiple hands tugging at me, pulling me in different directions, but for some reason, I always had my mother's touch gripping my left hand, which she would pull me back to a safe place and waking me up. Day 3 came and I was just waking up early in the morning, feeling a bit better but dehydrated, sober but body aches all over my muscles, so it was hard to even move. I looked to my left and seen my mother slouched over with her hand holding mine and her head rested on a pillow just beside me. I felt this immense guilt fill my head as I hanged my head low as I sat my back against the bed frame, running my thumb across her skin, which felt cold and clammy, unnatural, slightly gripping and shaking her hand. "Mom? Mom," I whispered. "Mama, I'm awake now." She didn't react. She was cold. The window wasn't open, the fan wasn't on, or even the AC. Not realizing it, but her grip on mine was hard and stiff, shaking by her shoulder with my other hand, and her entire body was cold and stiff. I lean over and I see her eyes were slightly sunken in with black circles around it. Pale as white, and immediately I knew she was gone. She must have passed at some point into the night, and it just broke my heart. When the ambulance arrived and took her remains, I was crying softly on the front step watching them take her away. I asked one of the passing paramedics, "When did she, do you know at all?" He looks through a clipboard and flips a few pages and kneels down to me sympathetically. "It looks like she passed away 3 days ago, sir. She's been laying there for 3 days, judging by the condition of the body. I'm really sorry for your loss." He pats me on the shoulder and walks back to the ambulance. I sat on that step thinking back as well as I could. 3 days she passed away as I was coming off the drugs and going through withdrawals. She fed me, gave me water, looked at me, and sat by my side that whole time taking care of me. All that couldn't have been a dream, because I do remember seeing her standing by the window and smiling at me with those sad eyes as I drifted in and out of sleep within those 3 days. I stand up and go back to the room quickly and see the empty cup of water and opened pack of crackers on the nightstand. I took a deep breath and sat on the bed, letting the tears roll down my face. She loved me no matter what. Even in death, she wanted to make sure I'd get through this problem, and she got me through it. She didn't let death stop her from taking care of her baby boy. I guess that's how powerful a mother's love is, not even in death. She never gave up on me, and I made sure I was all right. The end. Traumatic brain injury, 3rd-degree burns, 5 fractured vertebrae, and a severe spinal cord injury. That's what I remember the doctor saying to my family as I slipped in and out of consciousness after the accident. I can't remember much. Some jerk cut me off. I swerved and hit a ditch, rolling the car over in the process. I can remember watching the flames creep around me before it all went black. I thought that was it for me. I knew it wasn't good. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't move a single muscle in my limbs. I couldn't even speak. All I could do was move my eyes. They told my son I'd likely be bedbound for the rest of my life. I spent a month in the hospital before I was cleared for discharge. I had 2 options, living in a nursing home or having a full-time caregiver. Of course, I didn't have a choice in the matter. I couldn't speak. I was a bystander in my own life. My wife died several years prior, and my kids were still in their early 20s, starting their careers. So my sister agreed to it. It was a lot for her to take on. Despite that, she makes sure to take good care of me. She bathes me regularly, purees healthy meals to feed through my tube, and makes sure any wounds are tended to. She's religious about setting up my doctor's appointments and treats all my ailments. But I am miserable, and I am ready to die. I live every day unable to move, unable to communicate, unable to do anything meaningful. Worst of all, despite what my family thinks, I can still feel pain. Every single day I am in agony. Yet every time I am sick, every bout of pneumonia, every infection, every time my breathing becomes a little shallow, I am rushed to the hospital. They still try to save my life at all costs. Last month I went into cardiac arrest. I wanted to scream when I came to and realized they resuscitated me. I want so desperately to die, but I know as long as my sister cares for me, I will keep living. Before my accident, my sister lived on the streets. She begged me for money, only to blow it on booze. She had only been sober for a month before she started caring for me. Now she has a home to live in, food on the table, and a small chunk of money coming in from the state as my paid caregiver. I know my sister. I know she can see the desperation in my eyes. I know she can see the agony that I am in. I know that she can see that I am ready to die. She doesn't care for me because she loves me, but because she loves her new life. She is going to do everything in her power to keep me here, to keep me alive.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to one of my videos. I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao.